Mr. Harvey. You too have 5 minutes. After 4 minutes, I'll ring the bell, and that will signify you have a minute left to go. In your own time, please. Use your microphone, please, Mr. Harvey.
Sorry. Good morning. Thank you, Chair and members, for affording me an opportunity to make this presentation. I will explain my interest in this application. I'm now retired, but I worked for about 35 years in the Environment Agency Wales and its predecessors, fulfilling various senior management roles, and ultimately was seconded to the Welsh Government as the head of branch overseeing the Waste Strategy Review. As my wife and I have lived immediately opposite the entrance to Withyhedge landfill site for over 30 years, I would suggest that I have a unique insight into the needs and challenges associated with waste infrastructure development. I intend to touch upon both the landfill and the existing MRF, as the Director's report suggests some clear symbiosis between them. Both sites use the same access, which is situated on a blind bend, is dangerous, and would certainly not get approval today, even for cars, and certainly not for HGV traffic. The Highways Department chose to ignore this aspect when commenting on the application. The vehicles now using the site are not council compactors, but the largest articulated lorries allowed on British roads, bringing waste from all over Wales and parts of England. There is an environmental price being paid for this along these extended routes. The Wales Waste Strategy introduced a step change for the waste industry and local authorities. For this reason, targets were introduced up to 2050, thereby providing time for the waste industry and local authorities to plan their actions and investments over the next 40 years. The move to improve recyclate quality has meant that the Withyhedge MRF is now no longer required, as sorting will now be done at home. Although recycling rates must increase over time, the actual amount of waste arising will fall as we move towards one planet living. In response to the Wales strategy, the Council set up a waste working group and employed consultants to support their endeavours. Early last year, I'm pleased to say that the Council took the decision to move to curbside collection and subsequently instigated a feasibility study into locating a central bulking transfer facility in Pembrokeshire. This is not mentioned in the Director's report. I fully accept that a bulking transfer facility is needed to receive sorted recyclate, but Withyhedge is not a suitable location, especially bearing in mind that large bulk vehicles will be required. This type of facility can be located on an industrial estate, as there is no need for isolation or rural use. Industrial parks are designed with lorry access in mind, with suitable roads, junctions and appropriate separation between vehicles and pedestrians for safety reasons. The reason given in Condition 2 was to preserve the rural character of the area. By 2020, this condition will have been in place for some 14 years, and the cost of dismantling and removing the metal shed and subsequent land restoration will have been factored into the business plans of the current and previous site owners. There are no doubt several sustainable sites for this building in the nearby Haven Waterway Enterprise Zone. Given the landfill targets in the waste strategy, which tail off to almost zero by 2025, some difficult or hazardous waste being the exception, the landfill at Withyhedge has a very limited life. The assertion in the Director's report, mentioned as a key benefit in no less than 5 places, that residential waste from the recycling facility can be landfilled on site, is spurious, since landfilling will have been phased out. Paragraph 617 of the report reveals that even now the site is only used as contingency and not a mainstream facility. I failed to see how an extension of permission can be justified for 20 years when, as the new collection system beds in, it may be found no contingency is necessary. It sounds more like an attempt to keep a redundant facility as a waste foothold with a backstop of alternative use. This once a waste site, always a waste site attitude makes it so much more difficult to secure new sites. A landfill requires an extensive land area, and the MRF was only sited at Withyhedge because the landfill was already there. The Director's report continues to make this link in support of the current application. I contend that no precedent has been set for an industrial building at this location in open countryside, as it was a temporary permission, nor is it a brownfield site because provisions for restoration have been made.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you.
Does any member wish to speak, to ask questions, Mr. Harvey? No? Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Maybe so.
In the report we received, there was mentioned that there was only a couple of incidents with oversized lorries in X number of years. I've seen a number of the lorries that go down, and I certainly feel that movement of such large-scale lorries, and lorries aren't getting any smaller, is inappropriate use of roads. I think you were suggesting that yourself.
Sorry, yes, that is certainly the case. I mean, bear in mind that these lorries pass within a metre of our property, and our property has been damaged by them. It's extremely difficult for these lorries to turn into the site access, and when they do, the photographs actually didn't show, and I did submit one with my objection letter, that as you're approaching from Rudbaxton, there is just a wall of a lorry. I mean, if one is coming to the junction, another has to wait. Sometimes they back up the road past our house. I mean, it has been chaos outside our house. And as has been mentioned, some of these lorries are now coming over the Presellis and using, if you like, the back door into this access point.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you very much for attending us. Could you turn your microphone? Thank you. We'll now open up for debate. The first councillor indicated to speak was Councillor Brian Hall.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the local councillor is Councillor Yellen, but obviously he's not here. Is that right? Oh yes, I didn't see him. I can remember being involved in this when it was first opened and so forth, and Potters at one time were based in Pembroke Dock. It's a facility that we've got to have. I'm not sure the exact figures now, but I think our recycling rate is well below 40%, which it should be a lot more. And with all sorts of problems at one time, everything was being moved up to Avonmouth and so forth at a cost. The recycling element went back down. My personal opinion, I don't think the curbside collection will work properly in certain areas. It's well overdue. It's supposed to have been started years ago. It's supposed to be starting this year. Whether that's a success or not on busy roads, I don't think it will, and so do a lot of other people. So we'll have to wait and see. But the recommendation here is there's 18 conditions on one page and one on another, bringing a total of 19. And I believe Mr. Botwell said it's subject to delegated authority to be agreed for access route or traffic impact. One or the other, was that right? Correct. So on that basis, Chairman, I'll move the recommendation on the basis of the delegated authority as well. That's okay.
Do we have a seconder for that, please? Councillor David Pugh. Any other members who speak? Councillor Miles Pepper, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think it was fellow Councillor Hall who said it was a facility that we've got to have. I would suggest it's a facility that we had to have. And going forward, I don't think it's the best siting, given the scale of lorries that are referred to going into the site. I have a lot of difficulty. The lorries aren't going to get any smaller. As has been said, the waste is coming from all over Wales. I witnessed some of those lorries going north through Fishguard. They're too big, even going through there. That's not today's issue. I accept that. But I think in this particular area of countryside, I think there are limits, and I think we've reached those limits, and I think that such a facility needs to be looked at to be placed in a more appropriate industrial site type settlement, and not there. So at this point, I can't give support to the application.
Okay, thank you for that. Does any other member wish to speak? Councillor Stephen Joseph, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair. I listened to the objectives' comments very clearly, and one of his biggest points seems to be the irrelevance of the site as it is now because of curbside recycling, and the need of it is going to drop off. Well, surely that addresses his concerns on the amount of traffic going into the site. That's why I see it. His argument is because it's becoming irrelevant. Well, if it's becoming irrelevant, then there'll be less traffic and less HGVs going into the site. So why not just leave it as it is, and it'll peter out to nothing, and everyone will be happy. But I agree with Councillor Hall. It's something we must have at the moment. It's unfortunate that someone has to live next door to it, but there we are.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak? Councillor Hall, do you wish to come back again?
If I may, sir, please. It was mentioned that there'd be a lot of traffic there and it's polluting the atmosphere and so on. I mean, the council is polluting the atmosphere more by all the trucks that come from Pembroke Dock to Avonmouth and now other places as well. So, and that's involved in a 600 plus lorry to do with Irish ferries, plus Switzer, plus all the operation that goes, and it literally drives in or through or around Pembroke Dock to get out on the A477 and whatever. I have no problems with this being looked at again, but it's obvious that when or if the recycling element reduces, that's where they make the money. They sell the stuff off. So when that comes to the stage that there's nothing going in there, they're not going to send a ton to be recycled. It will obviously filter out and stop. But as Councillor Joseph said, they're using or going to use eventually other facilities for this stuff. They've already sort of booked areas in the dockyard where they can sort this. And yeah, I would say we've just got to continue it. And when it reduces, the volume of traffic will reduce, as Councillor Joseph said. And there's no point in being there because that's where they sell that stuff on, and it would peter out again. So that's my opinion. I'd still stick to move the recommendation, and obviously it's been seconded and whatever. I'm sure it'll be monitored, and the delegated bit is to do with the traffic impact, and I'm sure the planners will do that.
Thank you. Councillor Pepper, you wish to speak again?
Yes. Thank you, Chair. It's in relation to traffic management. It was mentioned that some of the lorries going to the site don't take the recognised route. And this is a problem happening in other parts of Wales where lorries aren't taking the recognised routes. But there are steps in place to fine the drivers and owners of these units. But it's very unclear in Welsh Government as to who is to administer those fines. And in fact, the fines are as little, in the case of Fishguard of breaching the regulations, as £25. I'm currently trying to get that altered. There's confusion as to whether or not that lies within the gift of the Westminster Parliament or the gift of Welsh Government. But I feel that perhaps if the authority can add weight to getting Ken Skate as the Minister in this case, to look at when lorries do take unauthorised routes, that the fine is made to a point where it will address a lot of the situations which arise in rural areas and cause less problems. If that could be noted by the interim head of planning, I would be most grateful. Thank you.
Councillor Tim Evans, did you?
Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit confused. Can you tell me the traffic movements that are coming to the site that we're talking about today, is that just for this unit, or is it for the whole traffic that comes to Withyhedge site? Is it for the whole site, or is it just for this unit we're talking about now?
As I pointed out in the aerial photograph in the presentation, the access route to the landfill site passes through the material recycling facility site. The applicant in his presentation made reference to 4,000 vehicles coming to the site, but he didn't differentiate between how many of those are going to the landfill site and how many are going to the material recycling facility, and I don't have information on what the split is between those two elements of the site.
Thank you, Mr. Popwell. Any other member wish to make any comment before we go to the vote? No? Okay, so the recommendation is that the application be approved subject to the following 19 odd conditions. It's been moved by Councillor Brian Hall. It's been seconded by Councillor David Pugh. For all those in favour, please raise their hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9 in favour. Any those against, please raise. 1, 2, 2, 2 against. You're against. So 3 against. Can you just show again for against, please? 1, 2, 3. Sorry? Okay. 3. And any abstentions? So the application is approved for delegated approval. Thank you.